Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Hare Krishna, can you
Good,
hear
Hare
me?
Krishna. Welcome,
Hare
welcome.
Krishna.
Gokwel, Oslo. Good evening, Europe. Welcome to our Wednesday Bhagavad Gita program. And today's guest is Loka-pavani Devi Dasi. Those of you who have taken an online course at the Bhaktivedanta College might be familiar with her name. I have certainly read it once or twice in some round-robin email coming from her concerning some online course that I was taking. So today we are going to speak from the Bhagavad Gita, or hear from the Bhagavad Gita. Loka-pavani will be speaking from the 4th chapter. I forgot which verse, but she certainly knows which one, somewhere at the beginning. And she is, as I've mentioned, has an administrative role at the Bhaktivedanta College. And without any further ado, I would like to hand over to you. You've just had a brief darshan of the deities, and you will have a brief darshan, or a constant darshan from now on, of our temple guests here in the temple. Those of you who have questions can write them into the chat box or wait until the end and can unmute themselves when the question time comes. So thank you very much for being here, Loka-pavani. I hand over to you.
Now I can't hear you anymore.
Loka-pavani, can you hear us?
And the picture is frozen. I don't know if you can hear me, so.
We can hear you, yes.
Still. Okay, then I'll speak, and because sometimes it interrupts, so yeah. Anyway, I will start. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me. It's like my honor that I can say something about Krishna, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this service. So my name is Loka-pavani Devi Dasi. I am a disciple of His Holiness Niranjana Swami. I'm originally from Croatia. I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for the past 12 years. For the moment, I'm living in Radhadesh, where I'm serving at Bhaktivedanta College, doing a lot of administrative work for the moment. I've been here only for like 10 months now, so maybe some of you didn't have an opportunity to write to me because I'm quite new, but anyway. So today we are going to discuss Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 9. I will read the Sanskrit 3 times. I don't know actually, do you want to repeat, or should I sing Jai Radha Madhava also at the beginning, if you can tell me like what you prefer?
You can sing if you want. However, you would not be hearing us because all of us would be muted except for you. Okay. Otherwise, we'd have a total audio jam.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
I don't know if we will be repeating, but I think it's logistically easier if we just keep all of us muted and only hear you. So whatever you will be hearing, we will be hearing, but you won't be hearing us.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so before we start with the reading of the Bhagavad Gita, I will sing Jai Radha Madhava 3 times for purification. And you can, of course, even though I won't hear you, you can also sing. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janma Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtuta Shota Shri Srimad Bhaktivendanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Krishna Srimati Bhaktivendanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastutare Shatakya. So we'll start with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So I will share with you because I will read from the internet, from the database. So you can also read it with me here, or you can take your books. Just a second, because it's easier for me to read like that. Oh, I cannot share screen. Okay, then you won't. Then I'll just read and you can read in the books. So reading from chapter 4, which is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, verse 9. Janma karma cha me divyam. Cha me divyam. Evam yo veti tatvataha. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punam janma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punam janma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So reading word by word translation. Janma means birth. Karma means work. Cha means also. Me, of mine. Divyam, transcendental. Evam, like this. Yaha, anyone who. Veti, knows. Tatvataha, in reality. Tyaktva, leaving aside. Deham, this body. Punaha, again. Janma, birth. Na, never. Eti, does attain. Mam, unto me. Eti, does attain. Saha, he. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Just a brief interruption from my side. I just made you co-host, so you will be able to share your screen from now on.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a second.
However, you will, there's some kind of setting that will, there are two kinds of settings. One means that we cannot see anything but your shared screen, which is what we're seeing now. However, I would like to point out that some people here in the temple audience sometimes become a bit impatient when they only see this tiny screen here and cannot see your face or the face of the speaker. So after some time, you might want to switch back to your usual camera. Thank you.
Yes, of course, just that I read. So, and then I'll come back. Thank you very much. So we are reading translation and purport from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. So one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Purport. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting his present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But a devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body, and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 533, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandim, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers, as stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad. Eko devo nitya lila nurakto, bhakta vyapi hridantar atma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationship with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version Tattvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva viditvati mrityum eti nanyah panta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3:8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the Lord, of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. So we shall read the verse one more time. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So I will click stop share. So now you can see me. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangera Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Patitanam Pavaneyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivendanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this verse is one of the famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita, at least in Bhakti Shastri. This is the verse you definitely have to learn by heart, because it explains the importance of transcendental knowledge, and it explains the result that we can achieve if we nourish transcendental knowledge in our life. And the whole chapter 4 is actually speaking about transcendental knowledge. Who is the person who is speaking the knowledge? What is the qualification of the person who is receiving such transcendental knowledge? And Krishna also says that this transcendental knowledge actually explains the nature of my appearance and of my activities. And in the whole chapter, he goes and explains what is his nature, how he appears in this world, and also what is the nature of his activities. So, just to remind us ourselves, first Krishna says that transcendental knowledge is received through the disciplic succession. And then he says that he has given this knowledge to the sun god, and then sun god has given it to his son Manu, and so on and so on. So there is a whole disciplic succession of receiving the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And then Krishna says all the saintly kings have accepted it in this way, and then act accordingly. But due to the influence of time, this knowledge has been lost, because it is the nature of the conditioned souls, because they have 4 defects. They commit mistakes, they are prone to illusion, they are prone to cheating, and I always forget the 4th one. But the point is that we are imperfect, so therefore this knowledge, which is perfect and infallible, and that comes from the perfect source, through times it gets lost. And then Krishna comes to rejuvenate the knowledge, to repeat the knowledge. And now he's given it to Arjuna. And he also says to Arjuna, which points out to us what is the qualification of a person that actually receives transcendental knowledge. He says, my dear Arjuna, you are my friend, my devotee, and you are non-envious. So this non-enviousness also is very important, that we are not envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we are not, then actually we can accept very easily, we can have a simple heart, we can accept very easily when he speaks about himself. And also what is important is that when he says, you are my friend and you are my devotee, this means that a person who receives the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge of Krishna, has some kind of an intimate relationship with Krishna. And he is a devotee, and therefore he really understands who Krishna is. And Krishna actually also acts through his heart, and he empowers him to speak about him. So Srila Prabhupada also stresses throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita how transcendental knowledge can only be explained by a devotee. And sometimes also our acharyas, spiritual masters, they also said, like, yes, we have so many books, and yes, we can read them, but we need a help of a devotee. And of course, we do have a help of a devotee, because Srila Prabhupada gave his purpose to the Bhagavad Gita. And that is very helpful for us to understand. So we always need this help. And Krishna will say, like, if you want to understand the nature of my appearance and my activities in this world, you will have to, which means that we as devotees, when we practice Krishna consciousness, when we want to gain more knowledge, more realization, it is advisable for us that we accept a spiritual master, and that we inquire from him submissively, and that we render service unto him. And that is how we will accept humbly what we receive from the perfect source, because the source of what the spiritual master speaks is the same as what Krishna speaks. So the source, transcendental source, is the same, and the knowledge is in that way perfect. And if we render service unto him, he will reveal this truth to us, because he has seen the truth. So when we read the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada is the one who has seen this truth, and he is revealing it to us. And of course, by association with other devotees, we can also know what is this truth about Krishna. And Krishna says in this verse, when he talks about the truth, he calls it tattva, tattvataha. So the nature of Krishna, tattva, the truth of Krishna, the absolute truth about him, about his appearance. And he explains in the Bhagavad Gita why he appears in this material world. And these are also, let's say, visible reasons why he appears in this world. There are also internal reasons why Krishna appears. And we will touch a little bit upon each of them. So what Krishna says is that I appear millennium after millennium so that I can establish the principles of Dharma, principles of religion. And when someone says what is Dharma, what are principles of religion, it actually means that he comes here to remind us that we are his eternal parts and parcels, and that we are here his eternal servants. Because Sanatana Dharma, so the eternal religion of the living entity, is that he is an eternal servant of the Lord. So when Krishna comes here, he actually comes to remind us of that. So this means like to establish the principles of religion, to remind us who we actually are, and how it is our constitutional position that we render service unto Krishna. So that's one reason. Then he says, I also come here to annihilate the demons, because we know that if we were reading Shrimad Bhagavatam and so on, that Mother Bhumi the personification of earth, felt overburdened, and then she asked the demigods to plead to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he comes and takes away this burden of demoniac personalities that are overburdening her with sins. So this is also the reason why Krishna incarnated as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and came to annihilate the demons. And he does not do it only as Lord Krishna. Each incarnation has, in each incarnation, he has a reason like why he comes. But when we want to talk about the essence of the reason, it's always the same as he now says in the Bhagavad Gita. So it is always to annihilate the demons, establish the principles of religion. And the third reason is to protect his devotees. And of course, this protection of devotees can have many meanings. It can, of course, mean that he physically protects them from danger, like when he's killing the demons. But he also protects them, let's say, from a mental agitation of their separation from him. Because most of the time, his pure devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness, they develop this eagerness, this desire that they want to see Krishna. And Krishna wants to fulfill the desire of his devotees. So this is the third reason why he appears. This protection of devotees actually also means that he wants to give them pleasure. He wants to manifest himself to them for their pleasure. So these are the three reasons that he speaks about in the Bhagavad Gita. But when we think about like the purpose of why he actually appears here is, and that is what the Acharyas also mention, it's that he appears out of his causeless mercy. And what does this causeless mercy actually mean? This, he just wants to take us back home, back to Godhead. That's the only purpose actually why he appears here. There are like many reasons that he states, but the essential reason is that this material world is created to fulfill the desires of the living entities because they have the propensity to enjoy. And while they are in the material world, they forget who they are, their constitutional position. They want to enjoy because they think that is all in all, but they suffer because this world is temporary. To whatever we attach, we will lose it. So therefore, automatically we will suffer. Even if we get what we want, the time factor will take it away. So Krishna actually wants to show us where is our right place, where we should go back, where we should be. So out of his causeless mercy, he comes so he can attract us. So he comes in his beautiful form, where he plays his flute and he performs his pastimes in Loka-Vrindavan. And of course, when he comes, he never comes alone. He also comes with his pure devotees, with his paraphernalia, with his abode. And he also leaves all of this to us so that we can remember him. But I will get to that part. But that's like, this is the mercy, why he descends, to give us mercy, to attract us so that we can realize that we actually don't belong to this material world. That's one thing. He also wants to show us that this satisfaction that we find in material things is really not satisfying for us. So he wants to give us satisfaction through the sweetness of his pastimes that he performs, the way he appears, and so on. So this verse, this purport of this verse, it says that in Brahma Samhita, it is said how he is Advaita. So he is non-dual. He is Achyutam. His body is not subject to decay. He is Anadi. He is the original cause of all causes. And he is Anantarupam. His form is endless, with no beginning and no end, but he manifests eternal form as ever fresh youth. So all the symptoms, all the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he has a spiritual body that is Sachitananda Vigraha. So he comes by his internal potency into this material world. And he's unborn, although he is born. So he also shows these contradictions. I mean, when he becomes son, when he manifests, let's say, when he manifests as son of Mother Devaki and Vasudeva, he manifests actually in his four-armed form as Vishnu. And then through the prayers of Devaki, he manifests as a child, and so on and so on. So automatically, by just manifesting even as a child, he shows the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means that he's not an ordinary person like all of us. And how can we know this transcendental nature, for instance, of his appearance? By hearing about it from the pure devotees and from Krishna himself. Through the Bhagavad Gita, we hear from Krishna himself. Srila Vyasadeva, he has written Shrimad Bhagavatam, also for the satisfaction of devotees, so they can also get entangled from this material world through hearing. Because if we want to know about someone, we have to get to know him, we have to hear about him. So this is like the way we can gain this transcendental knowledge. And it's this hearing process, Shravanam, it's one of the 9 limbs of devotional service. So gaining transcendental knowledge automatically purifies us so that our heart becomes cleansed and we actually develop prema, a love of Godhead, and automatically we become attached and automatically we want to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is actually how it works, this transcendental knowledge of his appearance. And if we have it through the medium of the spiritual master, through the disciplic succession, and also we should also we should also analyze our qualities, because we are the receivers. We also have to have this like good faith in receiving things. And this is also something that Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport. He says that the absolute truth, the truth about Krishna, the transcendental knowledge, should be accepted on the basis of the Vedas. So what the Vedas say, what the scriptures say, and what the Supreme Personality of Godhead says. And it should be accepted with faith. So that's like this important ingredient, that we accept what Krishna says. And it's also not like a blind faith where nothing is happening, like I accept these things, but then I pretend I'm, to say, like dumb, or I don't think or something. It's not like that. Like I accept with faith and I practice the process, but then Krishna reciprocates, he reveals himself. And many devotees who even worship the deities, or they have these realizations that the deity is actually Krishna and that he actually reciprocates. And that's also how Krishna appears in this world. We will also talk about the points how he also appears not just by like an incarnation in the sense of Lord Krishna, Lord Ram, or Vamanadeva, or so on. He appears in other certain ways. But all his appearance is because he wants to give us pleasure, and he wants to remind us of who we are and that we don't belong here. And even when he annihilates the demons, it's not like, oh, I mean, to someone who has a material view, it may seem like, oh, he comes and kills them. But if we know the stories, if we heard about childhood pastimes of Krishna, where he kills the demons, where he later on kills Kamsa, and all, even the Kurukshetra war that's happening, there's a lot of fighting going on and killing and so on. All the persons that are annihilated in that way are benefited. So Putana, she receives the position of the mother of Krishna because he only takes something that she, because in her past life, she had a desire to become his mother. The desire became through time polluted, but the first desire was very loving desire towards him. And he took the essence of the devotional service towards that the devotee had towards him. And he took that, and that's why, even though she wanted to poison him with her milk, he gave her the position of a mother. So this is also proof how he comes really to like purify, to take back all the souls back to Godhead. So this is like what we should hear about, what we should understand, and what we should accept with faith. And if we do that, Krishna will reveal his knowledge to us in our heart, because he is situated in our heart as a super soul, and he gives intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So he also in that sense gives knowledge about himself if he is situated in the heart. So by accepting this, we automatically, as the verse says, we attain liberation. But this liberation is, of course, that we're not under the influence of the modes of material nature and so on, but there is something more higher to achieve than liberation, of which Krishna will talk about more when he emphasizes the devotional service. We have to develop bhakti, love towards him. And that is something that will establish a firm attachment of the jiva towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is also nice to mention the nature of his activities, which is also mentioned in the verse itself. So we are talking about the transcendental nature of his appearance, but we're also talking about the transcendental nature of his activities. What is said in the chapter 4 is that Krishna has nothing to do, because he is self-sufficient, he is the proprietor of everything, he is complete, Purnam. So basically, he has nothing to do. And then I was listening to one lecture of my spiritual master, and then he said like, well, if you didn't have nothing to do, like everything was working fine, you didn't have to go to work, you didn't have to maintain your body in any specific way because you were eternal. I'm just like now, like imagine. So you don't have to do all these things, you have nothing to do. So what would you do? And the answer to that question is that you would do what you like to do. So that means you would like to enjoy. And Krishna, because he has everything, for him enjoyment is the exchange in the relationship with the devotees. So whatever we do for him, actually there is nothing we can do for him because he has everything. And we know that even in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, you can offer me a leaf, you can offer me a flower, a little bit of water, and so on. But we know through the teachings of our acharyas that actually Krishna doesn't need our leaves, our water or flower. What he wants is bhakti, love, right? So that is like what makes him enjoy. And that is why he performs all the activities. So he has nothing to do, because even in the creation of this material world, he doesn't do anything by himself. Everything is done by his energies. He can just be, which he is, in Goloka, the supreme planet where he enjoys with the gopis. So that's what he does. But he starts to perform activities for the devotee when he can see that we are attracted to him, that we want to establish a certain relationship with him. And that is something that he also proves in the Bhagavad Gita. And how does he prove that? Because he becomes a chariot driver of Arjuna. So some Bhagavad Gitas have that picture. Okay, so all of them, they have that picture, that Krishna is situated as a chariot driver of Arjuna. So basically, even though sometimes people think, well, to be a servant, that's, they don't like that concept, because being a servant in this material world has a negative connotation. But actually, we always serve, even though we think we don't, because in relationship that we have with others, whatever we give to them, whatever we want to do to please them, it's service. So it's also nice to know like what is the nature of our activities as well. So in the same sense, Krishna likes to serve. He likes to serve his devotees because he likes this exchange of love. And that is also why he performs activities in this material world. So he came because Mother Bhumi asked, and then the demigods came and they prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he wanted to have an exchange with them, and he came to take the burden of the demons from Mother Earth. But at the same time, you have the gopis that were like wanted to see Krishna in the way they want to relish a relationship with him. Then you have Mother Yashoda, who wants to have a relationship with Krishna as her son. So all these devotees, they have certain desires towards Krishna in establishing a relationship with him. And in that sense, Krishna performs activities. And in the example of Arjuna, he performs the activities of friendship. He's a friend of Arjuna, and he serves him, and he wants to serve him as a chariot driver. So this is like an exchange of love. So the nature of the activities of Krishna is also to exchange love with the devotees, because he wants bhakti. And wherever devotees are inclined to serving him, that is where he comes. That is where he manifests himself, because he wants to actually fulfill their desires. It is not that only we are, oh, poor servants who serve Krishna and he just enjoys. He is not like that. He's the best personality, of course, that exists in all the three worlds. And he's the most kind, the most gentle, and he wants to exchange with us, and he wants what's best for us. And also, it is said many times, especially by Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna wants us more to go back, that we go back to Godhead than we wanted. So because he wants the best for us, he knows what is our natural position and where we can be happy. And we, the small jivas, we forget things because of our because of our size and because we change the bodies and so on. So in that sense, I just wanted to present how the transcendental nature of appearance and the transcendental nature of activities of Krishna is always connected to giving pleasure to the devotees, even though he lists to establish the principles of religion, to annihilate the demons, and to protect the devotees. In the essence of all the reasons that are presented externally, there is always an exchange with the devotees, and that he comes here out of mercy so that he can attract us. So he performs these activities even though he has nothing to do, only to give us jivas, here's devotees, pleasure, and to attract us back home, back to Godhead, where we actually truly belong. And sometimes I was wondering, like, okay, so then he came as Lord Krishna, and yeah, that's attractive, and he says that he comes to establish the principles of religion. And then I think, like, oh my God, we live in this age of Kali, and when you turn on the news, you can see like that everything is a little bit crazy, falling apart, and so on. And then I'm wondering, like, I mean, come on, can't you see that so many bad things are happening and the religious principles are not being followed and so on? Why doesn't he incarnate now, and so on? So he did, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago, and he again performed his pastimes to attract the living entities, and actually to give an example of how a devotee performs devotional service towards the Lord. And he showed us what kind of emotions we, as his servants, as jivas, as part and parcels of him, what kind of emotions we can actually exhibit towards Krishna, and what kind of a relationship we can have, even in separation, even when we are here in these bodies. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he propagated the holy name, chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this sound vibration of the Maha Mantra, this is the incarnation of the Lord for this age of Kali. And I was also listening one more lecture where it was said that where Krishna said, I am not found in Vaikuntha. I am not found in the heart of the yogis. I personally come to that place where my devotees sing, chant, talk about my glories. And his appearance and activities that he does, he leaves them here with us. when he lives. He left his holy name. He left Shrimad Bhagavatam. So basically, when we chant the holy name of the Lord, when we read Shrimad Bhagavatam, we associate with Krishna, and we can have Krishna in our home immediately, and we can have this relationship with him. And the true example, the person who exemplified, the supreme person who exemplified how it is done, it is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So every incarnation has his reasons why he appeared. As Lord Chaitanya, he also had the reason to establish the religious principles for this age, which is the chanting of the holy name, to annihilate the demons, not maybe by killing in a war in Kurukshetra as Lord Krishna did, but to kill the demoniac propensities that we have in our heart, and also to protect the devotees. How? By attracting them to come back home, back to Godhead. So this is what I wanted to say about this verse, very nice verse, about the transcendental appearance and activities of the Supreme Lord. And if we hear about these beautiful activities of the Lord and his appearance, and if we understand, at least try to understand or accept with faith, we will get liberated, and this kind of knowledge will purify our hearts, and we will attain love of Godhead or prema. So thank you very much for your attention, and now maybe if you have any questions or something to say, comments.
So as I said in the beginning, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box if you're too shy to speak to the entire worldwide audience, or you can also unmute yourselves by clicking that little microphone icon in the bottom left corner of your screen, and then you can just ask your question if you like. There is a question from our studio or temple audience.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
For your wonderful lecture. I recently heard that Lord Chaitanya has also his spiritual planet or area, and this was actually new for me. Can you say something about this?
I can read. Yes. Yes, I can. Thank you for your question, and thank you for listening. I mean, I can only say what I heard from Bhaktivendanta Swami. He said that yes, on Loka-pavani there is like a section which is meant for the associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also performs his pastimes there. But then he says that better pastimes are here on earth for Lord Chaitanya pastimes. And he said that Lord Chaitanya pastimes on earth are continuing, and why they're better here than in Goloka Vrindavan, because here you have someone to save. You have someone to whom you can give a book, to whom you can share Krishna consciousness, to whom you can explain about the Maha Mantra, and actually you can please Krishna more by being here and being engaged in Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya than being in Goloka Vrindavan in his. But I think, I mean, as I understood from what I heard, it's a place where devotees in separation worship Krishna and the Lord Chaitanya as his associates, but it's all meant like this mood of separation from Krishna, and that's all I know about it. Maybe one day I'll know more, so I would be able to say. But, yeah. Thank you. Okay, we have something from chat. Oh, Georgia. I know Georgia from Belgium. Thank you, Georgia. Okay. She says, thank you for the wonderful lecture. I loved it. So much beautiful information about our Lord.
Hare Krishna, Loka-pavani.
Hare Krishna, Devaki.
I have a question. Wonderful class, by the way.
Thank you.
I was wondering, you were talking about how Krishna, in his free time, in his spare time, he enjoys interacting with his devotees. And I wanted to ask, we normally in our day-to-day lives, we tend to say when something good happens, like, oh, it's Krishna's mercy and like that. But I was wondering, sometimes it's our karma and sometimes it is Krishna's mercy. How do we know when Krishna is actually playing part in our lives? When is he the one who's giving us mercy? How do we feel him in our day-to-day life?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Well, Krishna is always in our life. He's situated, first of all, he's in the life of every living entity in this universes, material universes, because he's situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart. And so he's always there. He is neutral when the living entity is like enjoying the fruits of its work or suffering, because he's not turning. There's a metaphor the two birds sitting on the same tree, and one bird is representing the Jiva soul and the other bird is representing the super soul. And this Jiva soul bird is eating the fruits of the tree. And by eating the fruits of the tree, the Jiva is suffering the results of the karma or enjoying the results of the karma. But this other bird, super soul, is just waiting for that bird, Jiva soul, to turn to him. And when we turn to Krishna, then he takes charge of our lives in a way. So and he actually does everything in our life so we can go back home, back to Godhead. Because of the bodily identification, we think that something is pleasurable or something is bad or so on. But whatever happens in our life is actually meant for our purification. And sometimes that can be very difficult to accept, but that is true. And even if we suffer so-called karma, Srila Prabhupada explained it many times, that maybe we were meant to, I don't know, be hurt in a car accident, for example, but we only, I don't know, got a bruise or something. So he pieces the effects of karma in our life. And we know that even from the scriptures, where scriptures say that how the holy name actually affects the manifested karma, non-manifested karma, and the one that is only in seed, and how so the manifested karma, I forgot the name in Sanskrit, but like for instance the body that we receive, we cannot change this manifested karma, but other parts of the karma that is not manifested yet we can change. But Krishna always has a role in our life, and he always guides a devotee, even though a devotee thinks that he's suffering very much, and he does suffer. But sometimes this suffering and this pain brings purification, and it softens the heart. And this is not, Satchidananda Swami said that there is a bitter mercy that we receive from the Lord, and sweet mercy. And also Saint John of the Cross, he also speaks about the dark night of the soul. And sometimes in the spiritual life, devotees can have this period where they think like that bad things are happening, but actually they're not. It's only for the purification of the heart. And I can say like also I like that story because it helps me a lot, especially when I have troubles. I don't know, something bad is happening in the relationship with other people, or I have fights, or I don't know, something is happening to my family or something. There's a story that my spiritual master was talking. He was a Sankirtan leader of Sankirtan book distribution. And after, I don't know, two weeks of Sankirtan, he would come to the temple, and then he would have to give like Shrimad Bhagavatam lessons. But every time when he would come to the temple, he was being criticized by a temple president all the time. And he felt really bad because he was criticized also publicly, and so it was not very nice. But he didn't tell anyone that. And this happened through some period of time. And then one time, temple president was not there, and he was given a chance to speak on Shrimad Bhagavatam verses like a few days in a row. And he was talking about the story of, now I wish that devotees could help me with Maharaj Rahugana, and I forgot the other name. I will remember, I can write to you, I'm sorry, but Bharat Maharaj. Yeah, I'm not good with names, I forget them.
Jada Bharat?
Yes, thank you, Jada Bharat. So Jada Bharat was being criticized by Maharaj Rahugana all the time. And then Jada Bharat said, like, your harsh words, your criticism does not affect me because I'm not this body. And at that moment, my spiritual master realized that this criticism that he is receiving actually has nothing to do with him. So, and first of all, we're not this mind, we're not this intelligence, we're not this body. But it's very difficult for us to understand that. Now we are actually spirit soul, we are eternal, we are full of knowledge, we are ananda, full of bliss. So, but now we are covered, we don't have that understanding, and that's why we suffer. So whatever Krishna does in our lives, and he does it personally in each devotee's life because he's situated as our Paramatma in our heart. He does it to make us purified so that we can understand who we are and what is our constitutional position. So this is a little bit. It can be like said a lot about this topic, about like how is Krishna present in our life. We are blind. That's the only reason why we can't see him. He's like really present. We just need to quiet our mind and chant more and better, and then we will see him better. Yeah, so that's what I can offer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay. So if there are no questions or comments, you can say. And
usually we have questions from ISKCON Oslo, but there haven't been any questions tonight as far as I can see. Oslo, det noen spørsmål? Are there any questions?
Perhaps not today, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, Mataji.
thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Can I ask? Sorry, I was not remember where you from. Where you sit now?
I live in Radhadesh, Belgium now.
Belgium, Radhadesh. Oh, I have been in Radhadesh, Belgium. It's an amazing place. Oh, my love to Radhadesh, Belgium. It's just beautiful there. You are blessed. It's the most spiritual place in the world I know. I was meet Krishna there. You have very nice temple.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I just wish to all people who sit now today here to visit this temple, to visit Radhadesh, Belgium. It's amazing place, 120 kilometers from Brussels. But not take the taxi, it's very expensive. Take train.
Yeah, that is true.
Yes, it's a very nice place. So thank you very much for the lecture. And I hope we will meet you in Radhadesh.
Yeah, please come. I would be very happy to welcome you.
Thank you. Bye. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
So if there are no further questions, then we shall conclude this evening with a brief darshan of our deities, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. So thank you to all of you who have listened tonight, who have been present during this lecture. We have recorded this lecture and we'll be putting it on YouTube, so you will be able to share it with whomever you want. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, Loka-pavani, Mataji. We really hope to see you again and hear from you again in the near future. Thanks to all of you, and good night. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.